very personal. How did you react when you received this information from Mr. Thabo Kawana during your press conference?
Well, the moment I heard that it was Thabo Kawana, I dismissed that fact, because I don't remember a time when Thabo Kawana ever made sense in his statements. And I was justified not to take him seriously, because the very next day, his own minister has disowned him. And it brings me to this issue. Why is it that this government always has an issue with statements that are being made? You have 4 government spokespersons, or 4 persons within the same government, giving different statements. And it starts from the president. The president comes and says, we have agreed to amend the constitution. Next, the Minister of Information says, we are not going to amend the constitution. The Minister of Justice comes and says, we are not amending. And the next thing, the president says, you have not even seen the amendments. And then you are saying you are denying what is there. Next thing, the Minister of Justice shows up and says, yes, in fact, we are going to amend the constitution. So you see that there is no coordination within this government, and it practically starts from the head. It practically starts from the head. And this disease, we'll continue seeing it until we change governments. Thabo Kawana is not just one. There are others who say things that are not true. The addiction to lies in this government is very apparent. And they could be truthful in their ways, truthful in their approach to national issues, truthful in terms of national development, truthful in upholding the rule of law, truthful in bringing up laws that are helping Zambians, laws that are progressive, and not laws that are there to perpetuate their stay or protect their ego. It has become apparent, I know I'm possibly talking too much because I haven't been with you in a while. It has become apparent that what has been happening, what we have been witnessing, is this government trying to prolong their stay in government, trying to protect themselves, such that those things that they are bored, those things that they seemingly spoke against, is what they are up to. You say Mr. Kawana gave us a statement that was not true and has been disowned. I would tell you that even the very Minister of Information himself, who disowned the statement by Thabo Kawana, gave a statement to say, once we get into government, we're going to do away with this cybersecurity law that is there, because we feel it is intended to gag people. What did they do? Now they even want to enhance it. Now they even want to go against anyone who posts a posting where they're expressing their opinion, which is against the government.
We will come to,
yes.
We'll come to the issue of the cyber security at some point.
Exactly. But for now, I'm giving it as an example
Right.
of the inconsistencies of this government,
Right.
coming from the statement that Thabo Kawana had made much earlier and has since been disowned by his own minister. And I'm telling you that this is a malaise, it's a disease that runs through the whole leadership of the UPND, from the president
Right.
down to the ward councillor.
Right.
Yes.
So let me take you a little bit back. I know this might be a little uncomfortable and you don't want to talk about it, but let me take you back to the issue of the former head of state, ECL.
Yes.
And the part of the information that Mr. Thabo Kawana gave, maybe not everything could be dismissed, but maybe there's some truth to it. For instance, I want you to speak it from 2 positions. To what extent should the government discuss a matter of health, personal information of a former head of state? That's number 1. To what extent? Number 2, I know you have been with ECL in South Africa. To what extent is the government giving support to the former head of state?
Well, only to the extent that they take responsibility for him as a former head of state. Can they say things that relate to the former head of state? Now, let me break it down this way. We have a former head of state in the name of Edgar Lungu, who is in active politics, served this country diligently for 7 years. Upon coming into active politics, government withdraws all forms of support from him. He's not paid, no allowances, he's not given security, nothing whatsoever. In 2022, when he desired to go for his medicals, they stopped him from going for his medicals. They stopped him from traveling. Were they interested in his health? This time around, when he did go, his trip coincided with the coming in of the rapporteur, the UN rapporteur.
Irene Khan.
Yes, Irene Khan. The very day she came is the day that he left. Possibly, and it is not far from fetch, that the only reason he managed to go is because the UN rapporteur was in the country. And we are made to understand that the moment he left the country, personnel at the airport were in trouble for having let him leave the country. But even when he left the country, the state did not know where he was, which hospital he was at. Even if you ask Thabo Kawana today to say, okay, very well, which hospital is attending to President Edgar Lungu, he will not be able to tell you. He will not be able to tell you because he does not know. If you ask him where Madame Nawakwi was, he will tell you. If you ask him where Madame Vera Chilva is, he will tell you. But as regards where President Edgar Lungu is, he won't tell you. He won't tell you because they have looked at him as political competitor that is threatening their stay in power. The vice president, all the vice presidents in Zambia are being paid today. President Nevas Mumba of MMD, who was former vice president, gets an allowance. Madam Inonge Wina gets an allowance. Kavindele gets an allowance. All the living former vice presidents are getting allowances.
Perhaps only Dr. Mumba is still active in politics. The other two, they are not active.
Yes, they are not active, but there is no law that provides for them to get allowances. You choose to deny a former president who should ordinarily be getting the support of the government, even assuming that it is okay to deny him all the other benefits as regards getting a salary or indeed allowances because he's in active politics. Shouldn't his medicals be taken care of? Those have not been taken care of.
How can they
Government
take
is
care of
not
them
taking
when
care.
they don't know where he is?
How can they know where he is when they are not interested in taking care of him? It comes back to them. So if they were interested in the health of President Edgar Lungu, they would have been interested right from the start. They would not have stopped him from traveling for his medicals. They would be right now knowing which facility they are taking him to. How much have they set aside for his health, without going into the details of what his condition may necessarily be. So I will be disinclined to discuss the health, the personal health of the former head of state, to the extent that in any event, the government itself knows what the position is. The minister did come in parliament and said, you cannot or we will not discuss the personal health of the former president. What happened when people were wondering whether President Hakainde Hichilema was sick or not? The time there was allegations that he was in Mainasoko, heads rolled. People were threatened with arrest because they were discussing the health of the head of state, which ordinarily they're entitled to know. President Edgar Lungu was not ashamed to tell the nation to say, listen, I am unwell and I am taking leave for my health to be attended to. He was never afraid. But this one thinks he's God, and when he's sick, no one should talk about his sickness. Like, it's an offense to talk about the president's sickness. There was a rumor that he has died, and you could see that Facebook was awake, and indeed the internet almost burst, where people were speculating as to whether he was alive or not. Some celebrating, some of course.
But of course that,
yes,
that was wrong.
Exactly,
for
of course.
To assume that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That some celebrating and others expressing their the, how can I put it?
Displeasure.
Yeah, displeasure, as it were, against those that were expressing happiness, and others genuinely concerned about his health. So it should not be seen to seem like being sick is a taboo. It's wrong. We all get sick. And when we do get sick, let it be the person that is sick, be the person to say, listen, this is my state, and I'm undergoing this, and this is this is how I would want us to go from this point onwards. Right. And like the cantankerous manner in which Kawana decided to go about this issue, that was uncalled for.
I know, Council,
yes.
we have a lot of issues that we need to talk about within the very limited space of time.
Yes, please.
But permit me, before I move on from this, issue, to ask you to inform the nation, because many people hold a very misinformed position that President Lungu and President HH don't see eye to eye or don't speak. Now we've been made to understand, actually, they speak as brothers, they are very close, and they check up on each other. I mean, could you just crystallize this information for us? Because really it has come as a breath of fresh air, and it was a source of contention amongst the two political divides. What's your reflection and what's your confirmation on this very interesting piece of information?
In all honesty, Pastor, it would be great if President Hakainde Hichilema and President Edgar Lungu would talk. It would be great.
It would be great?
It would be great. It would be great because President Hakainde Hichilema would have an opportunity to ask President Lungu, how did you deal with the drought issues that were there? How did you deal with the shortage of food? How did you deal with the issues of electricity and load shedding? How did you deal with all these issues? How did you deal with the issue of debt? How did you deal with the cost of living? How did you manage these things? Now, I will tell you that the trajectory that our economy is taking, the trajectory that our agricultural sector is taking, the trajectory that the development of our infrastructure is taking, simply speaks to the fact that they are not talking. Because in light of governance, President Hakainde Hichilema is a novice. He's simply learning how to govern. The way he assumed would be the way to govern, he should have found out by now that that is not the way things go. And the only person so far living who has had the opportunity to run this country is President Edgar Lungu. And President Edgar Lungu has always been available. If I was President Hakainde Hichilema, instead of sending the police to go and grind his gate, I would go privately, knock on his gate and say, President ECL, let's drink tea. How did you sort out this issue? It would be President Edgar Lungu who would be telling the Patriotic Front, or indeed the opposition, say, listen, this guy may be leading us somewhere. Let us be able to talk to him and guide him, because he is genuine when it comes to issues to do with the economy, when it comes to issues to do with agriculture, rule of law. He is genuine in that regard. But that is not happening. That is not happening. So the long and short.
Are you telling the Zambian
the long
people
and
that
short.
Mr. Kawana lied, that President Lungu and President Hichilema do speak? You are saying he was lying?
Kawana lied when he said that. But as a matter of fact, his own minister has disowned him. And his own minister has not stated which part of the statement he has disowned, meaning that the whole statement has since been disowned. They don't talk. They don't talk. They just don't talk. It would be good if President Hakainde Hichilema would come down from his high horse and say, my brother, how did you run this country? Then things could possibly have been different.
Right.
Yes.
Well, let's move on. Zambia is a nation of issues, and we have one topical issue that has to do with the constitutional amendment. You are a constitutional lawyer, and I would like to hear, and perhaps not just me, the Zambian people would like to hear your sentiments around the current proposed amendment, clauses, 13 of them,
Yes.
by the government, and currently there is, an encouragement for the public to discuss these things, because government would like to gather consensus, and the Ministry of Justice has given out a roadmap, and this is something that is very topical at the moment. I'd like for you to just give your reflection on what has been proposed to be addressed in the constitutional amendments.
The Minister of Justice has not given a roadmap. The Minister of Justice has simply told us what the intention of government is, whether we like it or not. That is what they have done. As a matter of fact, this is not the point at which you give a roadmap. I was an ardent advocate for Bill 10. I appeared on different fora to discuss Bill 10. And from the time we started constitutional amendments in this country, it has never been done in the manner that the UPND are suggesting it should be done. The very things that they spoke against in Bill 10 are the very things that they want to bring in. It is for that reason that I'm saying that Madam Nawapwi was able to call President Hakainde Hichilema for who he is, a hypocrite. And this whole constitutional amendment debacle exposes that part of the leadership of UPND, the hypocrisy in UPND. It was President Hakainde Hichilema who says, do not touch Article 52. This article that talks about resignation of a person before the election, do not touch it. Even if it is going to take us forever to get to a person that we want, so be it. That was his argument. He was being interviewed by Costa, and he said it plainly that he was not in favor of the amendment of Article 52. What has happened today? What has changed? What has changed? Hypocrisy of the highest order. It was him who said, do not do this delimitation exercise. He even quoted scripture saying, no, don't move the boundary stones that were set by our forefathers. It is sin, he said. Now he has decided to be a chief sinner to advocate for the delimitation. As a matter of fact, in his naivety, controversially so, Jack Mwimbo was on set saying we can change or put delimitation, or we can delimitate the constituencies without touching the constitution. We've done it before. I watched that debate in Parliament. I went through it again. I watched his interview to say, is he sure you can do the delimitation without amending the constitution, which sets a specific number of 156? Now, I wanted him to show us magic as to how it would be done, because he said it could be done without amending the constitution. As regards all the 13 amendments that they wish to make, what is so draconian of them all is the desire for the president to move that number of 8 nominations that ought to be made from the constitution, put it in subsidiary legislation, where he can decide to wake up today and say, okay, I'm going to nominate 50 members of parliament. Who's going to stop him? Why does he move it away from the constitution? Why doesn't he want it to be in the constitution?
Council, not to stop you,
Yeah.
but I hosted the permanent secretary, Mr. Thabo Kawana, not too long ago on State of the Nation. He said, it is not true that the president would like to have unlimited number of nominations. He, according to Mr. Kawana, the government holds a view that there is a provision for 5% incremental numbers. 156 members of parliament, 8 is 5% of that. And they're suggesting that whatever number the limitation process is going to give us, 5% of that will be the incremental value to the nominated members of parliament.
Are you sure you want to quote Thabo Kawana as an authority?
He's a government spokesperson.
He is a government spokesperson, and the
official.
Government has disowned him.
I mean, no, but they haven't taken away his position.
No, well, the very fact that they have told us that he's a liar, we can't follow what he said. As a matter of fact, where is that law that is talking about the 5% incremental?
I don't know.
It is not there. Just as though you don't know. The reason you don't know is because it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, then it is not there. You can't take away from the Constitution, because there's a reason why the Constitution limits it to 8. And it had nothing to do with percentages, as it were. It had nothing to do with any percentage. And to say that we will put it in subsidiary legislation and prescribe a percentage is not it, because now we'll be using the arrogance of numbers for purposes of increasing the numbers of members of parliament. And then we'll have a Wameyaya syndrome creep in, because the moment he is able to change subsidiary legislation without the rigorous a process that requires to change a constitution, then using the arrogance of numbers, which they intend to use in the cybersecurity amendment, they'll be able to do that. We'll only be able to cry, don't. But if they have the numbers and it only requires a simple majority to amend subsidiary legislation, they will, for a fact, do as they wish. The Cybersecurity Act is a test. They will go ahead and amend it. Move sentences to 25 years because it fits them. Notwithstanding that the Americans have advised them not to, whom they seem to get along with very well. Civil society has said don't. All media houses have said don't. All journalists, I know not of one who says we should go ahead. Bloggers have said don't. All stakeholders have said don't do this. But using the arrogance of numbers, you saw what happened in Parliament. What will stop them from using the same arrogance of numbers to increase the numbers of members of Parliament from the UPND?
Do you reckon that even with all the advice, you think the president was sent it is waiting?
I will tell you for a fact that President Hakainde Hichilema is not one to listen to anyone. Whose advice does he take apart from his own? If
he indeed has advisors.
Those advisors are advised by him. Otherwise, it would show that he himself and the whole group of advisors can be relied on. We wouldn't be where we are right now as a state if President Hakainde Hichilema listened to advice, because that advice has not only come from inside but also from outside as to how exactly we should approach our economy, how exactly we should approach the issue of the rule of law, how exactly we should approach the issue of load shedding, how exactly we should approach the issue of the cost of living, how we should approach the issue of the mining companies. President Nawakwe was able to speak eloquently on that issue and advise government on what ought to be done. Did they listen? No, they didn't. Even when they were selling Mopani, they called it not a sale, and their justification for calling it not a sale. But everybody knows it's a sale. But one day the chickens will come home to roost.
You said you were an ardent proponent of Bill 10.
Yes.
When you mirror it against the proposed changes, 13 of those, what do you think are some of the marked differences that you think Bill 10 stands superior to what is being proposed?
Firstly, we had the National Dialogue Forum. First, there was a call for submissions, and there were about 700 submissions that were made countrywide. All those that made those submissions were invited. We enacted the National Dialogue Forum where people were able to sit and debate the content of the Constitution and the manner in which it was going to be adopted. The desire that Cabinet should not be the ones to determine what should go in there, but what the National Dialogue Forum was going to discuss is what was going to go into Bill 10, and as it was going to go straight into Parliament. Right. What have they told us now? They've told us they're going to give a report for delimitation a day, then thereafter there will be consideration, and then they will put it in the government gazette 1 month for people to make submissions. we just fulfilling the rigmarole of what exactly they intend to achieve.
Right.
There has been no process for building consensus, and they're calling that 1 month for publishing it in the Gazette as building consensus. That's not how you build consensus. You build consensus before you publish it in the Government Gazette a month before it is introduced into Parliament, meaning that at that time you will have said, this is what the people have said they want. At this time, they want to tell us what they want. Then in the process, we start making submissions. No. It ought not to be the case. We have to go in a very holistic manner, get views of the people, set up a framework that is workable, a legal one for that matter, not a pronouncement from the Minister of Justice or indeed the President, especially that everything that they're advocating for are things that they said they didn't want to grace the Constitution. What is good now? The very example that is said, just because you put sugar in poison doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it not poisonous anymore. And this time around they are saying, I want to be able to nominate the members of Parliament that I desire.
I'm asking you, one last question on this constitution
yes,
making process. I just want the director to be ready with an ad, because as a media house, we have realized that this is such a topical issue. It's a matter of great national importance, and the consensus needs to be built on it. We must hear from both sides of those who are saying this is good for us to do. As you heard Dr. Nevas Mumba said, he single-handedly can perpetuate President HH's stay in power by withdrawing from his nomination, and then we'll go back to 30 days, you see. So we need to hear those who are proposing that these are good amendments and those who are opposed. So as a media house, we have taken it upon ourselves. Tomorrow we'll be hosting the first in the series of the public discussion forum. So perhaps maybe before I ask you this last question, let's take a breather and listen to this
yes.
Message for the people who are watching, that they have to be at Mulungushi tomorrow at 18 hours.
It's a good breather. So far, so good. Yeah, it would be good to address the issue. The issue of President.
Ahead of the 2026 general elections. Before we took that breather, Council, I was telling you that there are those who are totally convinced this is the right thing to do. The amendments must go ahead, before 2026 elections. And there are others who are saying, as a matter of fact, the very fact that this thing is being done closer to an election is a red flag. We need to move away from this, but let me ask you to respond to those concerns of timing and those who are saying it's the best time for us to do this.
You should be curious enough to understand why are they saying before the next election. What's the urgency of amending the constitution before the next election. There is absolutely no agency. What has broken down? What has not worked well so far? That it is urgent that it must be done before the next election. I would be happier if we took a holistic approach and say, listen, we have not touched the Bill of Rights in a very long time. From independence, we've not touched the Bill of Rights. UPND decampaigned the referendum that sought to introduce economic, social, and cultural rights in the Constitution, which for me, I think may be what is urgent, may be what we should be considering right now. How do we enhance the rights of the people? The discussion that we should be talking about now is not the administration of government. That is not the discussion we should be having. The discussion that we should be having is, how do we enhance the rights of Zambians? Why are we not looking at Part 3 of the Constitution of Zambia? Why are we looking to, for example, increase the numbers of members of parliament, Why are we looking at that? What about the right to shelter? How many people are going hungry without food? How many people are going without housing? How many people are going without good education? How many people are going without medication? How many people are we taking out of the country to seek medical attention elsewhere? What are the bottlenecks that we have for making sure that our hospitals in Zambia are able to deal with certain ailments that we take people out for? In the patriotic front, that was being addressed. You saw hospitals being built. You've not seen any hospital being built during the time of UPND. You saw airports being built. You saw schools being built when the PF was there, for purposes of addressing these issues. But we said, okay, let's have a human rights approach towards development by including economic, social, and cultural rights in our constitution. That's the conversation we should be having right now, not administrative issues. Those are not going to the very bottom of what this country needs. Right now, we need a human rights-based approach towards the attainment of development in our country.
Are you not concerned that we may not have an election, in the stipulated time? Because remember, in this constitution, the date for an election is prescribed.
Yes.
We even know.
Yes.
Not the way it used to be. The president must, prescribe which date. This time is very predictable. But Dr. Nemas Mumba, as an opposition political party figure, has said, wait a minute, that's why we need to amend this constitution. It's a dangerous clause. I, for one, as Nemas Mumba, will make sure that I nominate I tender in my nomination, I withdraw, just so that we tell you and show you that this is a bad clause.
See, I think Dr. Mumba was being mischievous when he made that statement. Let's look at what was the intention of putting that clause there, the 30-day clause. What was the intention of putting it there? See, with the nature of corruption that we're seeing in the UPND, it is possible, for example, in Kawambwa, where they purportedly abducted a councillor who stood on Tonse Alliance ticket, hid him somewhere, and the next thing he shows up, he says, I do not want to stand. The effect of that is that there has to be a cancellation. The framers of our constitution foresaw that there would be corrupt individuals, such as the UPND, that may approach a member of another party, induce them to withdraw from the election so that they gain unfair advantage. So that 30-day issue is intended to protect our democracy. People have the right to choose whom they want to choose. So if a party is given an opportunity to induce corruptly a person representing a political party to withdraw from an election, then we need to find a way of dealing with it. They must know that when you do that, the whole process is cancelled and you start again. They'll look for another candidate and you may still lose anyways. That is one reason. The other reason is there are unforeseen circumstances such as death, where a candidate dies and then the party is disadvantaged. You need to have a system that does not disadvantage any political party. So that clause is intended to protect democracy, not for people that by means that are corrupt or by being mischievous, such as Dr. Nevas Mumba intends to be for purposes of cancelling elections every 30 days. As a matter of fact, in the event that he does resign as a candidate from MMD, MMD will have to pick another candidate. It will not be him. It will not be him. They'll have to pick another candidate.
If not resign, he may just withdraw.
In the event, in the event,
and again resubmit,
in the event,
nothing stops him from
in the event that he does withdraw and then resubmits, the Constitutional Court is there. What was the intention of drafting that? It was not for purposes of disadvantaging anyone. And as a matter of fact, the person who is president at that time, remember, there's no parliament at that time. There are no ministers at that time. President Hichilema is a lame duck. He can't make decisions. He has a budget to look forward to the next January. There's a budget, that's August, remember, and parliaments need to sit and come up with a budget. He can't run anything. There will be nothing going on. Even President Hichilema himself should not lie to himself that he can be president for 7, 12 years. It's impossible, because he will not even be able to tie his own shoelaces. He will not be able to buy a shoelace, because there will be no budget to run with. There will be no parliament. So how is he going to run anything?
Right.
So it is preying on people's ignorance that they are able to make such statements. And not all people are as dumb as they think they are. As a matter of fact, Zambians are not dumb. They are not down.
Let's move on to the issue of the rule of law. When we advertised your coming to this program earlier today, we saw some comments praising an enabling environment that the UPND administration has brought to the fore. And they said, one commentator said, let him come and speak, at least no cadre will come and ambush your TV station. The president has created an enabling environment. Perhaps very true. So far, we haven't had any cadre storming any TV station to that effect. So
No. That is not true, because cadres did storm a Catholic radio station in Pika.
Right.
The bishop did complain about that. President Kalava did complain about that. Right now, cadres are busy wearing military fatigue, and they are not saying anything even after making an announcement. It's the UPND cadres that are doing that. Right now, UPND cadres are burning people's houses in Nyimba. They've not said anything. Just 2 months ago, UPND cadres were mock beating people who were going to vote. In Kawambwa, this guy, Mwinde, is on record of having caused havoc. Sean Tembo is there to speak. So there is nothing that they can tell us as regards them not having cadres who are being notorious. They are notorious. And when you talk about the rule of law, there's nothing like that. When was the last time we heard of charges of seditious practices? It was during the time of the colonial era. This time around, every person who opens their mouth to speak is charged with sedition. President Nawakwi has gone to her grave with a charge of sedition on her head. Brebna Changala is going to court for seditious practices. Nakachinda, Munia has been convicted for supposed defamation and is appearing for seditious practices. Mabonga is appearing for seditious practices. Only one set of people is appearing for seditious practices. You will see that there has been a breakdown of the rule of law, in that they only pick a selected number of people from a particular party and possibly region and take them to court. You create a court called Financial and Economic Crimes Court, and you only take certain people to that court. You determine what the rules of that court are going to be before they are promulgated the rightful way. You determine how the court should run. That is not the job for the president to do, and it is followed through. And you see that this court is now dealing with people. You have judgments that are coming where a senior court says you can't do this. A junior court says, the senior court is wrong, we can do this. How can a junior court say that the senior court is wrong and go their own way? Unless, or indeed, you cannot be far from speculating that they are following the script of the executive and not exercising their independent judicial position that they ought to discuss.
You are disputing there is no law.
There is no rule of law. There is rule of Hakainde Hichilema only. Because the very things that is said should not be are the ones that are right now. Cybersecurity bill is a very perfect example of things that is spoke against. They said the first thing they were going to do is repeal the bill. What have they done? They've enhanced it. Only things that secure his interests are things that are coming into law and being enhanced. Look at this law that has to do with livestock, theft of livestock. You can't, by yourself, with an interest in livestock, go and propagate a law that makes it non-bailable. Just recently, we had women that were marching saying, listen, we have so many cases of rape. We have so many cases of defilement. Let us make this non-bailable. Let us make this non-bondable. You choose without any protest whatsoever, without anyone singing any song about livestock, their chicken, their goat, their cow. You go and enhance and make it non-bailable. What is priority to you? What is it that you want the people to follow? What is it that, why is it that you want laws that only protect your interests? That should not be the way we should be dealing with matters of the nation. Right now, the nation is angry. Right now, the nation is hungry. Right now, we are in economic doldrums. What should we be dealing with right now? There's these issues of load shedding. As we are on TV right now, you can afford a genset. You are using a genset. But shouldn't we be running on electricity? What has happened to that nuclear project that the PF started, which Dr. Edgar Lungu started, and HH has now come and it stops the whole program. We trained about 100 nuclear scientists as PF, ready to run with this project so that we can be using nuclear energy to power our homes, to power our industry. Nuclear scientists as PF, ready to run with this project so that we can be using nuclear energy to power our homes, to power our industry. He gave an example of Dubai, saying no drop of rain falls in Dubai, and yet they have electricity all year round. Now he came, he had drops of rain, good amounts of rainfall, and he cried and says, let us pray for rains. The same way we used to pray for the rains and was not able to do. We had an answer for that, and that was nuclear energy. And nuclear energy is what Dubai is doing. I had hoped that by saying Dubai is doing this thing, he would, for a fact, transplant those ideas in Dubai, mix them with the nuclear program that we had started as PF, and be able to enhance it, improve on it, and make it run better. But he came and says, no, this is a Russian project. We will not run with it. Cancel it altogether. And we don't have it anymore. The over 100 students that graduated from Russia, where are they now? They are being used by other countries that think it is important to run industry on nuclear energy, to run our homes on nuclear energy, to run everything to do with the economy on energy, because essentially running the economy and improving the economy is about energy. That's what it is, and that's what it should be.
Right. Yeah. At some point we will open up the lines to allow for our viewers to, to call in. But I need first of all to bring this reflection, council, that next year we are literally going into an election period. I'm not sure whether we need to call for a break. I see a static picture. Technical, could you kindly advise whether We all right. I'm advised that we are okay. We could continue. Council, I was talking about the fact that next year we're going to an election. Now the issue is that the ECZ has presided, Awambwa and most recently in Petauke. So a lot of stakeholders have raised concerns about ECZ's ability to be an impartial, referee in that sense, because the chairperson, Ms. Mwangala Zalomes, is on record to have said that the vote buying and whatever happened in, say, Petauke was something that was done pretty much by both sides, of the parties that were participating. In fact, she said violence and voter buying were mutual by all participating parties. What are your thoughts around the ECZ's ability? Because so far, we haven't seen them crack any whip whatsoever. So people are beginning to wonder what's going on.
Pastor, it is very simple. The moment Zalomis said the issue of vote buying was mutual, then she announced to all of us to say, I am incompetent. Because the idea of having a referee is so that there is fair play. And if the referee says, you hit him and you hit him, play on. Those are not the rules of the game. It is possible to give yellow cards or red cards to both sides. You don't say that because it is mutual, therefore it is all right. She is trying to suggest, unfortunately so, that when two parties are fighting, when two parties are seemingly not obeying the rules, or when all the parties are not obeying the rules, then the non-obedience of rules becomes the norm, and it is law, it is okay. What law is she applying? What logic, if she can't apply the law, is she applying? She has simply said, I am incompetent to run this institution, and we should treat her as such, as an incompetent person running the institution. Now that she has told us that she is incompetent, the question that we should be answering is, should she continue? President Hakainde Hichilema's appointee has told him that I am incompetent to run this. Why is he being complacent, or complicit rather, in the perpetuation of an incompetent person? It is for him to now say, you have said you are incompetent to deal with parties that are breaking the rules. Therefore, come out and let someone who is able to do something about it, do something about it. Because now she is telling everyone that go ahead and do all the wrongs that you want to do, will not penalize you because you are all doing it. She is saying that our system is not credible anymore. That is what she's saying.
Right.
And why should we go into the next election with a system that is not credible?
You have no confidence?
Zero confidence, because the person who's running it has told us that she's incompetent. So why should we be confident in a system where the person heading it says, I'm incompetent? That's what she has told us.
Right.
Exactly.
One other issue that I would like for you to speak to, the Council, I mean, it also borders on governance and the credibility of information based on which government must make decisions. You know that most recently there was a controversy where a senior government official discredited the report by the Zamstats and called the report now and void. Now, this really didn't, sit well, because on one hand, one senior government official says it is now and void. The Minister of Finance, making a ministerial statement on the floor of the House, said, as a matter of fact, the report by Zamstats was credible enough. Now, those kind of conflicting statements somewhat raised a lot of concerns. I mean, you are a stakeholder in this matter, and you know for a fact that decisions from a national planning perspective are based on the census report.
Yes.
Here we are with a government that is divided about the content of this particular census report.
Now, let me take you back to where the problem is. We have a problem right from the top. And I'm sorry to keep referring to President Hakainde Hichilema, because...
You seem to be very personal.
No, I'm not being personal, but I'm just trying to show you the root of it all. It was President Hakainde Hichilema who told us that he does not like the systems of government where there is seemingly bureaucracy. Bureaucracy simply means a certain way of doing things, meaning that if you don't follow through in the way of doing things in government, you will not end up to the result that is legal and acceptable. So the moment you see his lieutenants also expressing their similar view, where you have one civil servant or indeed a government official come and dispute the report of another government office which they are not in charge of, on the basis that, listen, your report cannot be accurate because the number of voters in Southern Province, or in these particular 3 wards, is more than the census population. Now, we have to ask ourselves this question: what is wrong in that statement? Is it the register that is wrong, or the statistics that are wrong? What processes go into a census for purposes of verification of data? What processes go into verification of voters in a particular ward or constituency? Is he bringing that out from the registered voters that are appearing on the registers, or the ones that were reported to have voted? If it is dependent on the ones that were purported to have voted, then what we must be saying is that one of these reports must be wrong. Can we carry out an audit of the voter register and carry out an audit of the census report so that we come to a decision as to what exactly is wrong? Is it the census report, or indeed the register, or the number of people that voted?
So this
that
remains
is wrong?
controversial.
It remains controversial only to the extent that the point of comparison for a person like Dr. Bayani was people who voted. That was the only comparison. I had hoped that he would give us the census before, the linear progression as to how the numbers were increasing, and why did he just pick Southern Province in particular? Why couldn't he pick any other place? Why is it that we have this anomaly in Southern Province? Those are curious questions that should be asked. And if we had a competent leader at ECZ, they would take interest in that and say, why is there disparity in this? Can we run an audit of our system? Can we run an audit of the previous voting pattern and see to it what numbers are real and what numbers are not? Maybe they could have come up with a justification. But when that issue came out and people started discussing the issue of the voting pattern, the government quickly went and said, otherwise it's okay, because they understood now that this had opened Pandora's box and people are becoming curious. And people will be much more curious in the next election, because now it has really been exposed to say, let's look at what the census report says, let's compare it with the number of people that are voting. Because the census report, remember, will give you children, those that are above the age of the minority age, and the adults, those that are eligible to vote. It will tell you how many are women, how many are not women. So if the total population, that includes children, does not exceed the number of voters, then there's a problem.
Right.
And that we must interrogate going into the next election. And that is one of the reasons we should not allow any amendments to our constitution.
before we open the lines, let me ask you maybe one or two economic. We've talked a lot about politics and governance.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the economy.
Yes.
Obviously, one of the first things that the UPND did was to say, let's take the issues around the mines outside the court, which is your specialty, and take the discussion into the boardroom, because this is business, and business discussions must be held in a boardroom. And quickly, we saw Mopani come online, KCM come back online through Vedanta, and the government made serious pronouncements that we have now rebooted the economy, the mines functional, employment is back, suppliers are back. In the last few days, we've, however, been treated to a whole cocktail of complaints by Zambian suppliers, to the extent that the Minister of Mines and his counterpart on the Copper Belt had to hold a series of meetings with Zambian suppliers about their complaints, not being paid on time, and to a certain extent being given a 1-month contract, while foreign contractors are basking in the glory of 5 years, 7 years, tenure of their supply, contract. I don't wish for you to speak as a politician, but as a Zambian,
okay,
who probably has relatives on the Copper Belt. Are you able to feel the impact and weight of Mopani, KCM, and all the mine investors that are now operating in our nation? Are we on the right trajectory?
Firstly, I'm not segmented in the manner that I approach things. I won't say I approach this as a lawyer, as a Zambian, and as a politician. I would want to approach everything as a patriot, a person that really looks at the interests of the nation. Firstly, I don't doubt that President Hakainde Hichilema is an economist, but I doubt his ability to apply the knowledge that he learned in school to the actual economy. He can be a textbook economist, but when it comes to the application of the economics, I don't think he's done anything in that regard. For an example, the mining sector. We used to collect in mineral royalty taxes at least $1 billion every year in PF. The first thing he does when he comes in is say, this mineral royalty tax is deductible, meaning that it is not something that government collects for the benefit of the economy. It is something that government borrows from a mining firm, and that mining firm will be able to deduct from other taxes that they are liable to pay. That was the first mistake. Because soon after they did that, you saw that the copper prices went up, and by this time we should at least have been gaining at least $3 billion every year from the mines. Are we getting that? No, we are not. And because of that, there is nothing that is going to support the kwacha. And that is why his 14 hours has not yet come. When he said, if you swear me in by 10 hours, by 14 hours, the dollar will, the kwacha will appreciate against the dollar. Now, the simple economics is that you need more dollars coming in for the kwacha to appreciate. That's what you need. But instead, even the little that was there, he takes away. And then he says, I'm going to bring in investors that are going to bring in investment to the tune of over $1 billion. He even told us, I've got friends who are willing to come in and put money. Now, what did we see? We were played to a circus where we are told we have brought in Delta, we have brought in this company from Dubai to come and invest in the mining sector. When that company comes in, what does it do? It does not bring in the investment. Instead, it seeks to borrow from the local market. Now, simple economics. This is what is happening. President Hakainde Hichilema promising us a good economy, meaning that the banks should be able to have faith in us Zambians and be able to lend us money to run business because of the environment that President Hakainde Hichilema has created. But what does he do? He tells us this investor is coming with money. This investor doesn't come with money, goes to the banks where we are supposed to go and borrow, and they decide to start borrowing from our banks. Our banks will now sit and say, okay, should we lend to that one who has a cantemba or this one who has a mine? We choose to lend to that one who has a mine. But if this person who has a cantemba wants to borrow from us, you have to pay more interest because we are losing business from this mining conglomerate that has come in and wants to borrow from us. Meaning that you are strangling the economy all the more. Because this person that has come in, you have made us believe is going to come with money and be able to put this money in our banks. Our banks will have enough to lend out to the Zambians. That is not happening. It's a hoax. This whole Mopani issue, the KCM issue, is a hoax. President Hakainde Hichilema told us, who has said that we are giving Vedanta KCM? Who has said that? We are not going to give Vedanta back to KCM back to Vedanta. We won't do that. That was a press briefing. Then he goes into Parliament and says, I am proud to announce that Vedanta is taking over KCM. What sort of hypocrisy is that? The same hypocrisy that Nawakwi has been preaching about was exhibited in that statement. He has not told us what has changed about Vedanta to deserve being given back the mines. We were fated to this Vimba Opoke guy who was praising, saying Daddy Chololo at the Mopani, indeed handle, the time Mopani was being opened. And now he's crying the loudest and saying there's interference from State House, there's interference from your aides in this whole thing. Mopani has done nothing. People are crying on the copper belt. Now tell me one person.
But State House has said it's not true because those are just allegations. No single person has been named or linked to interference.
See, even when people were named, all President Hakainde Hichilema was able to say is that, no, this person was seen coming out with a bag. I called him. I asked him what it was. He said it was calendars. What can I do? He knows what to do. Who has investigated? Has he called DEC to investigate? Does he have the power to investigate himself? Why is it that other people, he believes them when they just say things, when others, he unleashes ACC on them, he unleashes DEC on them? These are matters of national interest. The mines are the heart and soul of this country. And if we don't take care of the mines for purposes of establishing them as a point of beneficiation for this country, then we're not going anywhere. He has failed to handle the mines. There's nothing that's coming up from Mopani. KCM right now is a house of cards. It will just crumble one day. Look at Luansha. We were told we will start draining the water. They have started draining the water. It will take 7 years for them to complete draining that water. If at all they will complete draining that water. Nothing is going to be realized out of that. All that we've had is fanfare, lies, hypocrisy, and idiocy, to say the least.
So as a legal mind, counsel, as a legal mind, what are your views around the sentiments of procedural impropriety around the sale of Mopani to IRH and the allegedly procedural impropriety around the surrendering of the toll gates in the Ndola Lusaka Dio carriageway? I mean, I know you said you don't want to speak as a lawyer, but these are legal matters.
No. I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm saying I don't have compartments.
Right.
When I'm speaking, it's everything embraced. Right. I can't be compartmentalized myself. That's why I'm trying to draw parallels to say, okay, perhaps with that mindset, we may be thinking that, okay, when President Hakainde Hichilema is talking about this, he's speaking as an economist. When he's speaking about this, he's speaking as a liar. When he's speaking about this, he's speaking as a politician. We will not be, because a person should be judged from what they show us there to be.
You love fighting.